Good morning, everybody. This is IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Texas Homer. That's Ian Boyd. Thanks for hanging out with us this Wednesday morning. You guys know the drill. $1 for 4 months to join InsideTexas.com today. That'll get you through the fall. And, of course, we're going to have recruiting news. Baseball team's #1 in the nation. We got a lot of good stuff going on. Make sure to join. Also, not this Friday, but the following Friday, Texas is going to play Texas A&M in Austin. And we are doing a giveaway sponsored by Academy Sports and Outdoors. So if no purchase necessary or anything, just come to the tailgate. You have to be there in person. But you can win a Blackstone griddle, a Yeti cooler, a 10 by 10 foot Texas flag canopy, 2 UT chairs, and 2 Rambler 20-ounce tumblers from Yeti. Just for being there and hanging out with us. We are securing the location right now. We'll announce specifically where you need to be at Dish Falk. But hell of a deal, guys. Come hang out with us. Not this Friday, but the following Friday. And then check out the legalese at the bottom.
The Yeti guy's a UT guy, I believe.
Is he?
I believe so.
No idea, but shout out to him. He's built quite the empire from the cooler industry. Good morning, Roaster. How are you, man? All right. We are going to discuss the 3 big questions still left unanswered to go throughout spring ball. And then we're going to talk about how we can maximize our defensive depth, specifically talking about the linebacker/edge position. Ian, let's begin with the 3 big questions. And I will pull those up right now. And I think these are good questions. I think these are important questions that will change how we project the team.
Some of them have easy answers.
Yep. So question number 1, does the offense have enough weapons? And are those weapons able to be deployed in the best way possible?
What do you mean by that?
AKA Moore and Wingo were not able to practice this spring, and we needed reps there.
Oh, I would say Wingo and Washington would be the 2 I would. Mm-hmm. Although we'll see, maybe Texas will find a good tight end in the portal, and Washington can be more of a luxury. I don't think this team has the weapons for the playoffs, Connor. Missing Moore and Wingo for the spring practice is extremely important. They're going to be a lot better if those 2 guys were playing. I think Moore did play some in this scrimmage, though. Am I right?
I don't know.
But
Moore had reps last year, significant.
They need a weapon outside. I think maybe from what it sounded like in the scrimmage, they played a lot of 12 personnel. And in 12 personnel, they don't have good tight ends yet. Like, we're excited. Everybody is excited about what Winston can be, what Washington can be, but they don't have good tight ends yet. And they don't have their top outside guy. So if you're playing in 12 personnel and you don't have a good outside receiver, and you're playing a team that plays good man coverage and has pass rush, you're going to get messed up.
Yeah.
Like, I bet if we got a really honest accounting of what happened in that scrimmage, I bet you the defense mostly dominated them. Anytime they were allowed to play without both their hands behind their back. The offense will be a lot better than that in the fall iteration, with or without portal additions, which we already know is happening. But you don't win in the playoffs, especially with a team built like this, unless you have NFL guys outside. And not like future NFL, like maybe in a few years NFL guys, but like
next year they're going to be in the league,
ready to be drafted NFL guys. So that is the need there. And they also, a tight end has to get a lot better. I would actually say tight end is maybe number 2 for the biggest need. And then the other thing, Homer, is that it's like, hey, they feel great about Baxter. They think he might be healthy. Clark is surprisingly healthy, but Jarrett Gibson's got it. He's great. And then what do we hear from the scrimmage?
Trey Wisner is number 1.
Wisner is the best running back, which is fine. I don't feel terrible about that. But I feel okay about this running back room if they have plus weapons at other positions. If they don't have plus weapons at other positions and they need the running back to carry them in tough games with playmaking,
Right.
they don't have it. There's no way. So, like, where on this team is like your overpowering weapon that's going to put you over the top against the best teams? Is there a single guy that meets that description on the roster right now?
That's known? No. I mean, you hope that Ryan Wingo can do it, right? But he has the NFL athleticism, but he hasn't had the chance to do it, and he was hurt in the spring. So as far as like we know what we got for sure, non-projection, no, that's where we would struggle.
We don't know that Wingo is more than a gadget player, a huge gadget player. Like, he could be pretty good next year and have 800 yards and 9 touchdowns on a few wide open passes against bad teams, a bunch of screens, sweeps and reverses, and he could just go to town on teams, kind of like Isaiah Bond did early last year. But whenever you play a good team where you actually have to beat them with skill and route running, what's going to happen? I don't know. We don't know. That's the guy they need. Desperately. They need that guy.
Yeah. And were you concerned with that with Wingo later on in the year?
I mean, he hasn't shown that at all. And he got hurt, so he's not practicing. So he's not necessarily getting better. I don't know where he is. Like, what we've heard of him makes him kind of sound like he's still sort of a super gadget player. I don't know that we've heard anything that's like, this guy is going to create separation consistently on third down or in the red zone like Matthew Golden did. We haven't heard anything that sounds anything like that, and we definitely haven't seen it yet. So I don't doubt his ability to get there with time, but you absolutely have to have that this year if you want to compete for a championship. So,
yeah. Well, and my issue too is, like, it would have been nice for Arch to get those reps with those guys too. That also matters. So, yeah, not as rosy as the fans would like to think, but I think you're making points. And then Trey Wisner being number 1 is interesting. I always just go back to this. I mean, we went like 8-4 with Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson behind him, so it's like, if you're relying on running backs, like you said, it's going to be tricky. Running backs, when you can take the heat off of them by throwing outside, running backs when Arch can run, running backs whenever you can hit seams with tight ends. Now it's a different thing, but I'm comfortable with the running back room if they are not the core of the offense. But if they become the core of the offense, then I need someone out of the portal. And so it's like, that's where it's kind of tricky for me with the running back room. It's how they're deployed.
We already have. I didn't get a chance to watch you in all yesterday, but there's already developments here. Like, the staff is clearly aware of this issue. So
yeah, they're going to go after tight end. They're going to go.
They already have a receiver.
Yeah, they're going to go after receiver.
So I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah, they're going to go after.
Did y'all talk about Mosley?
What?
Did y'all talk about Mosley yesterday?
Yeah, we talked about Mosley.
What did Paul say?
He likes him.
I think maybe he's the answer.
I think, dude, if you're having to, like you said, how you're talking about Wingo, like, what are you going to do in the red zone like Golden? What are you going to do on third down? I think Mosley, with his sure-handedness, ability to find spots in the zone, ability to run those quick outs, that kind of stuff. And he did, like you said in the group chat, he did some stuff in the red zone, ball tracking wise, that looked like Golden. So maybe Mosley is your safety blanket, make it happen player, because he was able to do that at Stanford.
My only question with him, he's really good. I think a lot of fans are like, cool depth piece, developmental replacement for Freddie Dubois or whatever. No, that's Jamie French. That's Dalen McCutcheon. This guy is an immediate help us now addition.
Yeah.
he catches the ball in traffic, and he took so many hits in his highlights at Stanford, where I was shocked by the hits he was willing to take going over the middle. Very, very impressive. My only question is, does he need to be in the slot to maximize? If you put him outside, will he just get covered up by top cornerbacks, or can he get open outside? And I don't know the answer to that. If he's in the slot, I think he's still extremely useful. But now it's like, well, that's where DeAndre Moore plays.
Yep.
Who's the most sure thing on the team. Can DeAndre Moore play outside? What happens to him when he goes outside? I don't know.
But I'm okay with that. The prospect of Wingo outside, Moore outside, and then Mosley in the slot. I think I'm comfortable with that combination.
I don't know if either Moore or Wingo can consistently get open against good man coverage.
I know Wingo had some struggles with it versus Georgia, particularly where it stuck out to me. But yeah. So
they're on the schedule.
Yeah. But also too, I mean, that's a true freshman. He has first round athleticism. It's just can the little things start going right? But I don't know how fast that can happen this year, and I don't know what happens when you miss a spring. The point is, there's more questions on this team this year than we had last year going into it.
Right now, I would be interested to see some 10 personnel.
Yeah, but I mean,
if they can find an outside receiver in the portal and then put both Moore and Mosley in the slot, then that is intriguing to me.
Yeah. How many full practices have you guys watched this spring? None, because no media is allowed to watch full practices. They'll do media availabilities. You get like 20 minutes up front, but there's no media in all of Texas that's allowed to watch full practices. That's why you have to rely on your hard news guys, right? Eric Nalin, those kind of guys that are pulling sources. But no media is allowed to watch full practices, no matter who you are.
Yeah, you got to get your deep state sources for that kind of info.
Yeah, you do. You got to tap in. But that's why you want to pay attention to your news first guys like Eric Nalin, that kind of stuff, Justin Wells. Yeah. So I like the addition of Mosley. I think it's more impactful than people realize. I've heard a lot of he set the floor. I think he does have a floor, but I also think he's helped our ceiling. But we're also needing to look for another rent a player for a year in the portal at wide receiver. And hopefully that's kind of your first 3-round level wide receiver talent.
It's kind of wild that they took Mosley with how much eligibility he still has.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good player who I think will play immediately, and he has a ton of eligibility.
Yeah.
So all these young dudes, don't get too attached.
Right. It's not very rosy outlook this morning, is it, Ian? All right. So does offense have enough weapons?
I watched Ohio State's spring game the other day.
Me and Paul talked about it yesterday too, and that's when the sober realization of what you need at wide receiver occurred more.
Yeah, I think Texas will be able to score on that team. I mean, they might blow Ohio State out. I'm not ruling anything out, but Ohio State has all the pieces on offense.
Yeah, they have the outside receivers, the tight
ends that can block.
Correct, and tight ends that can catch the seam too.
Yes. Well, we knew they had that, but I was like, okay, but Max Clare can't block, and Julian Sayin can't run. So spread 201, anybody following along in that series we've been doing on this channel, spread 201, if you have a pocket quarterback, you need a blocking tight end to help him.
Yep.
And so I was like, I'm going to go watch Max Clare suck in the run game and feel better about Ohio State. And then they had all these other tight ends that do not suck in the run game and are huge and powerful and developed as blockers. And I was like,
Yeah, that's the difference. So I've heard a lot of fans, it makes sense. They're like, what are you guys talking about at wide receiver? We have depth there. There's however many 5 stars, all this kind of stuff. The reality is we have future depth. I mean, the wide receiver room in 2 years, 1 year maybe is different, but we're in Arch, guys. We have Arch for guaranteed 1 year, probably 2 years. you have to maximize this window. So it's like you need guys this year, not projections. Like we know like this guy will be really good. It's about getting talent on board today that are going to the NFL next year and they are known enough. You have to maximize Arch.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. How many championships does Arch's uncles have without one of Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison Sr., or Victor Cruz?
Yeah.
And Jeremy Shockey?
Yeah.
0, right?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. It's like we need it. And so it's like, of course, we think Wingo's an NFL first-round talent. That's not the negativity here. It's like, what do we know, though?
I don't know that Wingo is a first-round NFL talent.
He has first-round measurables, without a doubt.
A lot of guys, more guys have first-round measurables than go in the
first round, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I need to see the skill. Skill.
I agree 100%.
Right now, he's a receiver-sized running back, where he's like just the best athlete on the field, But outside receiver is not the best athlete on the field. He's the most skilled athlete on the field.
The best worker in space. So, okay. We need to see an NFL proven or about as proven as you can be, portal edition. And then you want to see it at tight end, maybe 2 tight ends, right?
Okay, we need an NFL weapon at one of the 5 skill positions. And ideally, outside receiver, tight end, running back, slot receiver, in that order. That's what we want.
Okay.
We don't necessarily need all those, but we need a elite player at one of those positions with that order of preference.
Okay, we got that. Okay, so we got that in the portal. How do you feel about Texas?
Oh, great. I feel awesome.
You feel national championship awesome if Texas gets that?
Probably.
Or you feel playoff awesome?
Playoff, very awesome. Championship, hopeful. Not for sure yet. Yeah. We still have 2 more questions, but I feel pretty good about this. The only thing this team doesn't have is the thing that it did have the last 2 years.
What?
Which is just an abundance of high-level weapons.
Yeah, NFL talent everywhere. That we're about to go out to the NFL, not projections. All right, guys, before we keep going, let's hear from Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Days like this, the anticipation's half the fun. The call to adventure. Possibilities in every direction.
Look at that.
The stories you'll bring back. Even the true ones. And already, you can't wait until next time. From first catch to biggest catch of the season, this is where it starts. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
Okay, question number 2 that we need to answer. What's the plan at the star position? This is the nickel position that Jalen Gilbo played last year and Jahdae Barron played the year prior.
Yep.
And you start off here by saying that Texas has 2 clear contenders for the position. Neither one of them are playing the position.
Yeah, currently neither of them are playing the position, and I don't think either of them are maximized playing the position. And those are Jalen Gilbo, who played the position last year, was fine.
Who's headed to outside corner so far.
He's more valuable at corner if he can play there. They think that not only can he play there, but that he might be better there. And I think that makes sense. Because I don't think he Nick, you have to have your head on a swivel at star and process things that are going on inside and outside of you. And I think he'll do better with less to process.
Yeah.
Like there was just some times where he made decisions that were not awesome. Like when he kept his blitz up on that very obvious
Ohio State screen
before the half. It's not like it was all his fault, but he had a chance to not let that happen by peeling off his blitz when he saw it was a screen, and he made the most ridiculous effort to try to go for the quarterback instead when he had 0 chance at the quarterback. Anyway, Jelani McDonald, I don't know if I think Jelani McDonald playing in the middle of the field and not used up in man coverage on a slot 60, 70% of the time is a potential like game changer. And if he plays star, he can't do that. Like there's a lot of things about him at star that would be awesome and really good. But you could get a lot of the same things at safety by just dropping him down near the box.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's in this, I would rather have someone else in that spot.
You could have Jelani on tight ends at safety. And then not to mention, right, motivation matters too. Jelani, from what we've seen, wants to play safety. And so that matters too, right?
The big trick there is the missing piece is Derek Williams. Derek Williams is also more of a natural safety. I think he can play nickel really well because he can turn and run in man coverage. Derek Williams can do anything that has to do with athleticism. It's like Derek Williams just going to be good at it.
Yeah.
But he's probably more natural at safety. He's missed a lot of time. And he has the thing that's enticing about keeping Derek Williams at safety is that his range as a deep post guy is unbelievable. So he'll be dropping way back and then the other team runs the ball and all of a sudden he's there making a tackle for a 3-yard gain. And you're like, how in the world is that guy there? How did he get there like that fast? But we don't even know if he'll be healthy, Derek Williams. We don't know what he's going to be like year one coming off a bad ACL that was in October or something. So
because he played versus Michigan.
You almost might need McDonald at safety anyway.
Yeah.
So Eric's theory is that they have Jalen Gilbo who can play star. And more importantly, they have Jelani McDonald who he thinks they want at star. But they don't really have that many other guys to play the position. And so he thinks they're using the spring to speed up the development on Wardell Mack and Niblett, Austin Niblett. And
Ryan Niblett.
Ryan Niblett. Okay, thank you. And then there's some other guy that's there too. Grayson Littleton maybe?
Mm-hmm.
They have these 3 super young talented guys that it's let's get them all the freaking reps we can at this super cerebral processing heavy position. And then we'll have depth. And when we move McDonald there, who's already played, or we can zero in on him and not worry that we won't have depth because we've already been developing depth behind him. That makes a lot of sense. I think there's no reason really to doubt that Eric is right about that. But part of me also is I wish that they just had a new star that was good and they could keep McDonald at safety and Gilbo at corner.
So that'll be something to watch going through the fall, right? This won't be answered in the spring.
Right.
Most likely.
Unless we hear that probably Mac or maybe Niblett, actually maybe Littleton. That sounds like they're all pretty talented. Yeah. Unless we hear that one of those guys is you know what, this guy's awesome. He needs to play.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you want to hear before spring is over. And in my ideal world, you hear that one of those 3 guys is I'm not sure if we can keep this guy off the field.
Yeah. So
listen for that.
Then the final question, how can Texas make the most of all these linebackers? And we're actually going to cover your article in depth on that. So we don't want to give them the juice just yet. But on defense, the strengths of the team are going to be linebacker, inside linebacker, and then edge/outside linebacker. So the trick is figuring out how we can fit all these people in. We've kind of log jammed some of the positions. And I mean, it's who's not an NFL talent at linebacker? Anthony Smith will go to the NFL. Trey will. Leonga will, right? Anthony Hill.
I'm not sure about that, but they're definitely all very good.
Anthony Smith will be in the NFL.
He's a little small.
Well, he can get bigger. And then Trey Moore, he's being moved there to be in the NFL. Anthony Hill's in the NFL. And then Brad Spence, right? He should be in the NFL. He has tangibles, and then he's also has a pass rush side, so that'll help him. So it seems like there's a lot of NFL talent there. And then as far as outside linebacker, NFL talent there as well. So, but that's the biggest trick for the defense is we've kind of log jammed some of this position a little bit. How do we deploy all of our resources effectively and efficiently is going to be really key.
Yeah, I noted in the article we're about to get into that Texas had 3 packages last year. The base 3-4 defense, the base nickel, which they play most of the time, which is a 2-4-5, and then a 1-4-6 dime package. And the second number in all 3 packages is 4, meaning they played 4 linebackers no matter what. So it makes sense that they were stacking talent there because, like, they clearly want as many good edges and inside linebackers. So that includes his edges for everybody.
Right.
Which are, some of those guys are just basically just defensive ends, but just humor us in calling them linebackers.
Yeah.
But they've stacked it so well that it's like now they have, to your point, they have like 10 guys that are winning good players at one of those positions, at one of those 4 linebacker positions. So that's not even just a 2 deep to keep everyone fresh. That's like 2 deep plus. And some of them are so good that it's like, is there any way we could play more linebackers than 4?
Yeah.
Because some of these guys, if you're not overdoing it, if you actually have a package where everyone has a role that makes sense for them as linebackers, then some of those guys are game changers.
Do we really think we have the nose to make up the one? Yeah. So Ian, we will talk about that in some of these setups here.
Let's come back to this. Let's
yeah, we will. Your zero technique is going to have to carry a lot of weight in some of these situations. So yeah, we'll talk about that. So, but that's a great catch, Splendid Daddy, off front. It's a great question to ask.
On the Kobe Black, somebody asks, Kobe Black going to be a surprise breakout player? Question mark for the podcast people. Maybe. If you want 3 starting caliber corners.
Correct.
And right now he'd be the 3rd with Gilbo and Muhammad. I think it's like you have to get to your 4th or 5th corner before you have any kind of depth problem like we're talking about at linebacker, where now you're worried that you have good guys sitting on the bench. You can get a 3rd corner a lot of snaps in games, and he's absolutely essential over the course of a 17-game season or whatever you have to do to win the playoffs. So I don't think it's even going to be a surprise if and when he breaks out this year. I think they're like counting on it.
Yeah, especially how we rotate. Because Black was doing cool things versus Vanderbilt even last year.
He'll play in the dime package, whatever that ends up being.
Yeah.
He'll play a ton. He has to play a ton. Gavin Holmes played a ton last year.
Yeah. Yeah, Kobe Black's a very interesting player. That size is interesting. I'm always intrigued by big corners like that. Okay. So let's make this as clear as possible. Yeah. Not football guy talk. When we're talking about linebackers, what we are doing is we were talking about inside linebackers. That would be Mike and Will that you hear us talking about. That's Anthony Hill and Leonga Lafau. Those guys are off the ball. That's when you think of a linebacker, that's what you're thinking of. Okay. But we're also including the concept of an outside linebacker or an edge, which would be more prominent in like a base older school defense of a 3-4. Those guys are called outside linebackers. Saban ran it at a bunch of Alabama. Will Anderson would qualify. Dallas Turner would qualify as outside linebackers in a 3-4 base.
Lawrence Taylor invented that position almost.
Yeah.
Like Lawrence Taylor was the first great edge, and every edge since then is basically just mimicking Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah. So when we're saying linebackers, we are talking about the off-ball linebackers, the inside linebackers. We're also talking about our edges, just so to try to keep it from being super confusing. And there's going to be a bunch of numbers, all that kind of stuff. Just know when we're saying linebackers, we're not talking about putting Colin Simmons in Anthony Hill's spot. Okay.
We'll see.
And then of our edges, we have 2 positions. One's called a jack. That's a strong side end. A strong side end is going to generally be, we play at field boundary, so let's not be confusing. Strong side end will usually go with a tight end. And they're also going to have more of a run focused blocking thing. You want a strong side guy to set the edge because generally plays will run to the strong side where the tight end is going traditionally.
Okay. It's a defensive end.
Huh?
He's a defensive end.
Right.
He might drop into coverage every once in a while.
Right. He's going to stop the run. He's going to do what you're used to in that thing. Then on the other side of our jack, we have the buck. And buck is our weak side edge. That's where you're generally going to put your pass rusher. So Colin Simmons, that kind of stuff. Your NFL early round pass rush specialist is generally going to be your buck. Oftentimes and played buck and boundary for us. So often to the boundary as well. And he is less likely to have a tight end on him, meaning he's going to get more one-on-ones. That's why you want him advantaged as a pass rusher. So we have our buck edge. That's a pass rusher. We have our Will off-ball linebacker, Leon Galafau. We have our Mike off-ball linebacker, Anthony Hill. And then we have our Jack strong side defensive end type, which is Ethan Burke. Cool. Just wanted to get that out there before we go because it can get a little bit confusing as we go forward. All right. You want to talk the 3 down, 5 linebacker structure?
Yep.
Okay. You want me to pull up your diagram of it? Okay. Let's
so here's the idea. What if we played a 1-5-5 defense against some opponents next year? So it's a nickel, but instead of playing like 2 defensive tackles, 2 edges, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs, you played 1 defensive tackle, 2 edges, 3 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs.
Okay. And then just so fans can understand the player body types, who would play what?
So you would put one of your big defensive tackles as a nose tackle.
So who? Brevard, Shaw,
Brevard, Hero Canoe, and whoever else is deserving of whoever else can like
Shaw, January, somebody like that.
Whoever is best at commanding and absorbing double teams. Because whoever plays there is they're just creating a pile.
They're doing the Lord's work.
They're doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, in this system.
You know what's funny is one of the best Liberty Hill teams in the last few years they had a few big defensive linemen, but they did not have a nose tackle on their 3 down. And what teams like that often do in high school is they had this like 180-pound wrestler type kid. He's like 5'10", 180. And he would just get low and submarine the offense in the middle on every play. And then the linebackers behind him were actually bigger and stronger and faster than he was. And he would just create a pile. It's like a common high school trick because you don't have to have the pass rush as badly at nose. And it's like if you just have some squatty little dude who will die for king and country, then you can just do that. But that's what Texas wants. Only instead of 180-pound white walk-on, they will use one of these 350-pound dudes. Then you got your jack position will maybe be a little more of a defensive end.
That's going to be your J.
Yeah. So Ethan Burke can do this. If Colton Vosick is not slimmed down to 230, then I think he can do this. If he actually has slimmed down to 230, as like the roster indicated, and he can't get that weight back up, then that's a little dicier. That's a little Breckenhager in 2018. Zena Umeozulu, maybe.
And he's out for the rest of spring, unfortunately.
Yeah. Lance Jackson can probably do this. You can also just play like an Alfred. Sorry, they definitely could play Alfred Collins there if they still had him. They could play an Alex January, maybe a Justice Terry or Melvin Hills in that role as well. In that case, it's not really a 1-5-5 anymore, but whatever, just bear with me. And then your third defensive lineman is your edge, Colin Simmons, and you just use him like you normally would.
Pass rushing.
Edge, pure edge. And this one, I hated that this was my example because this one draws him across from a tight end. And I don't know if you could get away with playing him in like a wide 9 like you would actually want to. But whatever, it's passable. The problem, and then you have 3 linebackers behind them. So you have Will, you could just keep Leonga Lafau as the Will. He's made huge strides this spring. Sounds like he's ready to dominate. Anthony Hill still has the Mike. And then you play Trey Moore as a Sam. Or
Which he did last year.
Yeah. What I may like even better than this is flip the S and the M here and have Anthony Hill play a little more often in space. And then move that Sam as more like a spinner and just line him up all over the place. And then you usually attack with him so that you end up stunting into a 4-down front. And Trey Moore becomes your de facto 4th defensive lineman, but you let him build up steam or you let him fit where the run calls for him to fit. That make sense?
Yeah.
We'll get more into that later.
Yeah, you'll see an example of that. Neither of these wannabes has ever played a down of football. What makes you think you're qualified to discuss the sport? First off, RC, I have played downs of football. I played at Denton Ryan where Anthony Hill played. So I don't know why you're making that assumption. So that's just incorrect. Was I a good player? Absolutely not. But I did play football. Mike Leach also never played football, coached pretty well. So strange.
Mike Leach is an uncomfortably decent comparison for what I bring here.
Yeah. You can also just study the sport and learn. That's a way to do it. Weird comment. All right. So you're talking about moving Sam inside and then Mike outside, which would be Anthony Hill to play in space. Now, why do you say that, Ian? Do we have some type of example to display that?
Yeah, that's what they did that against Oklahoma last year. And I believe it's the only game they did that. But they played you have your 3-down linemen. So that's Barron Sorrell on the bottom. And then looks like Alfred Collins is the nose.
Barron Sorrell, Collins.
Maybe that's Collins on the. They have Barron Sorrell and 2 defensive tackles. And one of the defensive tackles is playing like a 4-eye defensive end, and the other one is playing as nose tackle. It might be Broughton outside. I'm not sure.
It might be.
It doesn't super matter. Then Leonga Lafau and Anthony Hill are both playing 6 yards off the ball.
Leonga is closer to the bottom of the screen.
Yep. Anthony Hill's on the hash mark.
And Anthony Hill's on the top hash mark.
He's way out there. And then like only a yard behind the defensive line in kind of a obscure flex type spot, you have Trey Moore. He's not lined up in his normal traditional edge spot. He's lined up off the ball. And what they would do with him there is they would wait and let Oklahoma's play develop. And then he would come in late and like try to blow up whatever they were doing. They only used this a little bit because they subbed in Colin Simmons, and Colin Simmons was completely beyond Oklahoma's capacity to handle. And so Colin Simmons ended up playing a lot of the game, and they used more traditional alignments. But when they used Trey Moore, they did a lot of this. Okay. And it was very good for Oklahoma because it was like Oklahoma had spent an extra week off, and you knew they were running option, but you didn't know what all they tried to cook up. And so by playing all their linebackers off a little bit, they could kind of watch and see what Oklahoma got up to and then just go blow it up. And it worked really well.
So we have good example here of kind of what Ian's talking about. It's not just totally pie in the sky. So That'll be important. Before we keep going, guys, let's hear from David McClellan.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor. And I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach. And he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
Get your money right with David McClellan, guys. Don't play around. Especially this shaky little environment, man. You might need a little professional help in the old money management game. All right. So we saw Trey Moore, and I want to show some examples. We have some examples from that game, right, of him playing that position.
Yep. We have some gifts to get into.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it. This question real quick. Could Trey Moore win the job over 18? I'm not sold on 18. He gets pushed around a lot, and they seem to take him out in passing downs.
18 is Leon Golafau for anyone at home. Yes, he could win the job over Lafau. Lafau is a good player, though. He was only a sophomore last year, and he was pretty good, and he'll be a lot better this year. I think the biggest leap guys usually make is that after their first year as a starter, you've seen a ton and you figure out where your real deficiencies are and where you need to work and improve based on concrete trial and error examples in life. So,
but also we hear too from the coaches, I think Sark said it, but that they love Leonga in passing downs. Like that's,
well, they did take him out. They did take him out on passing downs, but that was so that they could play Jade Barron in his position.
Right.
It's not like he was like a negative. It was like, hey, if they're going to throw, let's play the best defensive back in the country.
Yeah.
He does get pushed around some, but that's what happens to all 220-pound linebackers when the other team is able to leak out offensive linemen on them. If you're asking him to take on guards consistently and like blow them up without someone playing 2-on-1, then that's not going to go well. Anthony Hill even is not going to look that good in that position. I don't think physicality or size is really a problem for Lafau.
Cool. All right, is this Trey Moore up here? Can you not see my?
Trey Moore is close.
There you go. Is this Trey?
No, that should be like Lafau. That should be Trey Moore in the middle, shallow. Yeah. And
this is them playing as an off-ball spinner.
Boy, this is actually tricky to. Yeah, I think is that Hill in space, and then like. Is that Hill or is that a dropping safety? That's probably a safety.
That's Hill.
That's Hill. That's crazy. What an alignment. So the safety is on the hash mark right there. That's the safety. That's Moore. And then Lafau should be on the other sort of apex spot. Yeah.
Cool. So we're watching right here, right?
Yeah. So it's like, where does he play? And he just reads the blocking flow, and then he just shoots downhill to try to blow up the blocking scheme, which he does. Very minimal gain here.
He's down enough to take on number 54 too.
This is such a weird alignment. Who is it that? I think that's Taff on the perimeter because he got chopped down. It's actually Taff is actually closer to the ball than Lafau was. It's a weird alignment.
But what are they running here? Power counter?
GT counter.
Yeah.
No. GY. No.
Yeah.
GY counter.
Yeah, it's a tight end. But he's game. All right, that's him in the run fit. What do we got here? Do you remember this one?
This one, it's a passing play, and so he inserts late in the pass rush as a fourth pass rusher.
And this is him?
That's him.
Okay. Weird skip. But this is how you can play Trey more off ball, how we were talking.
Yeah, you could also blitz him and not make him wait.
Yeah, do this strange skip.
When the other team is a freshman who's prone to run around, then spying is a little better than pass rushing at times.
And you can see that he's like waiting to see if Hawkins is going to try something.
Probably the primary reason they used him in this role against Oklahoma was for the spying purpose, because Auburn had done that and just like shut them down.
Yeah. Barron is gone. He still won't be in on passing downs.
Well, probably not, because they have a dime.
We're still going to run. Yeah, we're going to run dime. So,
but that's it's not a fault of
Leon.
Yeah, like
it's just they're going to, on those third and longs, they're going to put in our dime. And so a DB, of course, is going to be better than a linebacker.
Yeah, that's like knocking the defensive lineman that they pull out so that they can put an extra pass rusher. It's not that the defensive lineman is a bad pass rusher. It's that why play him at all if you can put a freak pass rusher?
Yeah. This is also him rushing in.
So this one, he actually
he's right here.
They pull GY, the guard and the tight end again. He sees that and he triggers down. Oklahoma tries to get cute and run a reverse the other way. What on earth is Oklahoma doing here?
They're just running cute option stuff, like with a potential pitch out or like short flat.
They're trying to. I don't know if the running back is supposed to go against. I don't know if he's supposed to ignore
RPO. He's looking for, but I don't know what he's reading. But he's giving his eyes here on like this short flat, and then for whatever reason he gives. But the design of that is, there's some optionality to it with his eyes.
I think the running back is supposed to follow his blockers, but because
you have two guys pulling, and he just comes to the weak side.
But the Texans linebackers are playing back, so they just see it develop, and there's no one to block them because the blockers are all going somewhere else.
But what Trey does is he comes up and meets 54, and he seals the edge.
Yes. He played awesome.
So if the runner was there right here, the runner would have to be forced to come inside. There's more help inside. So what he does is stop the runner from having this bounce out option.
And he protected Benda or whoever that is up top. The RPO is not there because the linebacker is clean to go shut that down.
OU's offensive game plan against us was also bizarre. I don't think they had a plan. Some of the things when I watched OU, not even versus us especially, like their offense didn't make sense. It was poorly designed. And I don't know if it was Joe Klatt or somebody, but one of the big national guys was just like, I don't even know what's going on here. Like the design is nonsensical.
It's a crap bag.
Yeah, it's just
they were just trying to find something.
It wasn't a cohesive offense. It was just like different plays, but there was no connection or cohesive tie to them. It was
even worse than my flag football offense this season.
Yeah. You guys don't know, but Ian's been getting cooked in his league. At
least you can see what we're trying to do.
Yeah. That's what you're having to do with the coaches. You're like, do you guys at least see the vision out here that at least I know what I'm doing? But it's
you see how that would be cool though, right?
Yeah. You guys see I'm not an idiot though, right? Like these plays make sense. That is the tricky part that you're gotta do. So okay. That's what we saw. Those are examples of Trey Moore doing that. The Girl Herd. That dropped last night. Go check out that episode. Shout out Girl Herd. All right.
I need to check that out.
They did. So that's how you can use Trey Moore in these situations. And then you have another off-ball look. And this is what you're talking about with Hill out in space.
This is closer to what they did. This is what they did against Oklahoma.
Right. They put Anthony Hill, that Mike, as like almost like we already have a nickel out here, but it's almost like he's playing this nickel type role.
This is still a 2-4-5 in terms of what kind of personnel is on the field.
Yeah.
But it could be an example of what they could play Simmons as the jack. They could play Burke as the end, or they could play a bigger guy, whatever. Your nose. And then Hill and LaFau are a little more off. And your first responder, if you will, is Trey Moore as the S. So he reads the plays and he fits really fast and really hard. So he becomes like almost a late defensive end or a late coming defensive tackle. And then the linebackers fill behind that. And you still have they're still playing mostly single high, presumably. So whoever the strong safety is, be it Michael Taff again or Jelani McDonald, is going to be around to help. And then sounds like maybe your star is going to be 210-pound Wardell Mack or 210-pound Jelani McDonald. So he's around to help too.
Well, so we also heard notes-wise from Eric from his sources that not a super experienced team, but a very physical team too. You're hearing a lot of those kind of maybe bigger bodies are in the mix type thing.
Yeah.
But this is interesting. So we have a lot of linebackers. We have a lot of edges. We call them all linebackers. But this is how we're trying to figure out how do we get them? How do we maximize our NFL talent on the defense? And these are some ways to do it. Now, we had an astute, was it Splendid Daddy that asked earlier in the show?
Yep.
There we go. Yeah. Do you really think we have the nose to even make this setup work? Because as you're seeing here, the only true like defensive tackle nose body here is the nose and the zero technique lined up across the center. So what is that? We've talked about employing some of the strengths of this, but what's the weakness potentially of doing this?
I don't think that part is that bad. Your nose needs to get in the A gap to the side of the ball, ideally. If he lags, I don't think that's quite as great. You need him to work.
What's a lag technique?
So let's say that this team ran the ball to their offense's right, towards the H. They run the ball to the right. The nose could play it two ways. He could be asked to play the play side A gap.
Okay.
So he would need to get to the center's right hip and defend that gap. And if the center is moving off the ball, that means that the nose has to react and get back over and fit that gap. And ideally do it well enough to command a double team. So you're talking about high effort, explosive movement, and then ideally for the purpose of taking on a double team that doesn't wash you out.
And then your linebacker will fit opposite.
And then your linebacker, your weak side linebacker can fit behind you, and he doesn't have to get all the way over the top.
Yep.
A lag technique, the offense does the same thing, and they run to the right, and the nose is like, okay, you're going to the right. I'm going to make it really easy on myself, and I'm going to fit the A gap on the back hip, the left hip of the center. And maybe even I'm going to not only am I not going to try to chase you to get outside of you, I'm going to shoot through the backside hip.
Yeah.
So Texas used to use this a lot with Poona Ford, and it was just obliterated teams because he was so fast and quick and low, and he had long arms. And so they blocked to the right, and then either the center had to control him while moving to the right, or that guard had to get over and get on Poona Ford, and nobody was quick enough. And he would use his long arms to maintain distance, and he would just shoot through the backside A gap and be in the backfield half the time. And so the running back would be panicked, and his angles were awful. The more I talk about, maybe they could just do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds nice.
But your problem is if you do that, then the guard on the center's right, this right guard, gets just a free run at your end, who may or may not be Ethan Burke. If it's Ethan Burke, he's going to get washed out, and then they're going to get to a linebacker. If your nose gets over into that A gap and forces that guard to kind of hang back to help control him, then you're in a little better shape. The thing is, people assume that what you need in the scheme is a huge, powerful two-gapping nose. It's a challenging position, but you don't need to two-gap it. What you need is a nose who can make a consistent effort to fit the right gap and then eat doubles when they come.
Yeah.
And it's possible they could solve that problem with volume. Like Cole Brevard does it for 30 snaps a game. Hero Canoe does it for 30 snaps a game. Alex January does it for 15 snaps, whatever.
Is there a reason you seem bearish in mentioning Shaw?
The knee thing, remember?
Oh, yeah, he has the knee thing. But I was saying, like, if he's healed for fall. I was just seeing if there was that you watched his play and didn't like him as a run stopper or something. I didn't know why.
I thought he had the best potential in the film of any of the three transfers, but I really dislike the
lingering knee issue
we're worried about, and we're listing him at 350 pounds on the roster.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. I just didn't know if there was something like you saw on the tape that made you bearish there, but I get it. Lingering knee issue is never a fun thing to hear about a big guy.
We'll see though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he's good to go, then. So somebody was saying that Cole Brevard was like maybe the strongest player on the team in the win report. I feel really good about Brevard, and Brevard did something like this at Purdue.
Okay.
So this is actually would be more in his comfort zone, presumably, than the normal PK type scheme where he would play like a 3 technique or something.
Okay. So do you think we see this?
This is all speculation by me.
Okay.
Probably not.
I mean, you saw it versus Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But that's really to stop an option attack.
That's to stop, the running quarterback deal. I like this because I was just like, how could they play 5 linebackers at the same time?
Yeah.
And
so we play our regular stuff. What do you do? Just sub a lot or have situationally players. How do you maximize without 5 linebackers on the field? Rotate a lot, or hey, you have a situational role. You're the one on third downs, blah, blah, blah.
You just you lie through your teeth through the offseason, and then you get to the regular season and you play the best guys. Yeah. And somebody that's really good sits on the bench unless there's an injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't actually heard anything like this. The only thing we hear is usually something more like we're going to see more dime.
Yeah.
And dime does not leave room for more linebackers.
I was going to say dime takes away a linebacker, that's where it's interesting.
Or it's this, but instead of one of those 3 inside linebackers, it's
Will becomes a corner.
A safety, yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Because Jade Barron played the Will, right, in our dime last year.
So, yeah.
We'll see.
This is all mostly just theoretical and probably irrelevant. But it's not unheard of for teams to do stuff like this, especially in the NFL. In the NFL, you would see something like this more often than in college.
Is Nansen down to do this level of tinkering?
Nansen is up for anything, man. Nansen loves getting crazy.
But doesn't it seem to you like how they're talking about dime, all that stuff, but also just the difference in bodies they've talked about at nickel? Does it seem like we're going to go more into a game planning style where it will be matchup dependent to you?
It could be.
Because you have Ryan Niblett, right? Speedy, fast guy. You have a potential Jelani McDonald, 6'2", whatever, big nickel. Seems like we have a lot of versatility at that position, and maybe that's a harbinger of going more game plan specific.
I don't know. Maybe.
Ponder that this evening while your head hits the pillow.
I think maybe they're going to blitz the nickel a little more forcefully is what I think when I see all those big guys lining up there in spring. Or they're going to or like, again, dime. Your dime package gets easier to build if you have a lot of big, strong, versatile defensive backs trained in nickel.
How do you feel about the defense, though, man? definitely a lot more questions on the offensive side of the ball in the spring that we need to see answered to feel good about maximizing. But where's your gut check on the defense right now? You think we need like a defensive tackle? Sark says they're searching for that, but I feel much more comfortable about the defensive side of the ball as far as general knowns.
The star thing gives me a lot of pause. Like, you really need to be pretty good at that spot. But it seems like they are going to be, for sure, going to be able to play man coverage. And they have a gazillion pass rushers that can blitz or traditionally rush from a dozen different alignments. So what you have is something that sounds a lot like Georgia last year. They just need to make sure they have enough big bodies when teams just say, okay, we obviously don't want to throw on this team. Can we get away with just pounding them in the run game, you know?
So even if we do if we go dime, it's probably situational. But we can almost play this version of dime that is still feels like a 4-2-5.
That's probably where I should be spending most of my mental energies, is figuring out how they're going to do that. Because that's more Nanson's wheelhouse. And Pete Kwiatkowski he does a lot of different things up front, but his druthers are obviously, he likes to have traditional edges to keep the ball inside.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2-4-5 is much more his thing than the 3-down stuff.
Yeah, it's just gonna be interesting, man, with Nansen controlling the second tier, and then you got two new guys in the secondary. It's going to be interesting to see this blend of coaches. And like we said, PK is very collaborative. We've seen different defensive looks. So I'm going to be really interested just to see how we look and what we come up with creatively this season for defense.
They're going to do some new stuff. I would be willing to bet, and I'll have plenty to try to write about during the season.
Well, this pass rushing firepower, man. How do you beat us? You're going to, right now with our talent, you run the ball like crazy,
throw on first down,
and you throw on first down, and then you also just like have a very nice set of screens.
Yeah,
you're gonna need important like access quick throws. Like, your slot's gonna be huge versus us. Can your quarterback throw into the pressure? That's going to be huge versus us. I mean, it's all going to be, hey, Ben, your quarterback needs to make quick decisions, and they're not going to be super sexy generally.
I would consider right now, looking at our team, I would be like, can we get into 4 and 5 wide and just throw the ball quick and see if we can take advantage of these linebackers and nickels for quick hitting stuff.
So you think the air raid would be an interesting foil for this?
Yeah, some kind of spread passing thing.
Yeah, because then it could just be, hey, your receiver's job is whatever the leverage of the nickel is, you go inside or outside, and your quarterback. So that you would need a mature, older quarterback, and they would need a lot of quick reps with access throws. Is that occurring in the?
Let's see here. Oklahoma's trying to build that.
Okay.
But they have no receivers outside. They had like 2 guys that were like, maybe, and they're both injured now, so that's kaput. And then in the portal, it's like, we're gonna go get the best running back in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, y'all have like 5 running backs. You have no receivers. Why are you getting a running back? And apparently they're like in it for tight ends too, because their tight end position is really bad. But they already have like 4 or 5 of those too. They're such a mess, dude.
Ian just used this as a way to diss OU. I'm asking who has the ability to run this offense against it.
Not OU. OU is theoretically building for that, but actually they're theoretically building for like a power spread offense, which is stupid.
You know who would be frustrating if we still played them? Iowa State offense.
Their receivers both are gone.
Yeah, but no, I'm saying just the style. They would do a lot of that, like quick access, leverage throws, that kind of stuff
right.
with Noel. So it's like it's that style of offense, this quick gamey, get it to the slot, throw into pressure type of offense. But I don't think the SEC has a ton of those.
Auburn could be better, a lot better at that this year with RPOs in particular. They have a bunch of receivers, and Jackson Arnold kind of knows how to do that stuff, and he might actually be good at it with a year of Hugh Freeze in an actual system. He'll be a junior now, all of a sudden. Clemson destroyed Texas with stuff like that. Not destroyed, but
Gave
they
us,
gave Texas all they wanted.
yeah.
And they will be even better at it next year, probably. Hopefully not on the schedule. Maybe Alabama a little bit. Alabama could be trouble. They're not on the schedule, but they could do some of that. Not Tennessee. Who do they even play this year? Florida. That's not really Florida's game.
Everyone we played last year, just inverse.
You're right. Florida has a little bit of that capacity, but I don't think that's going to be their main game. I think their main game is going to be
It's gonna be DJ Lagway dropping bombs, man. He's incredible at that.
on play action. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. There's not a big air raidy team, luckily, that we've played. There's not even a lot of 10 personnel teams, are there?
Mississippi State, potentially.
But they're more veer. I mean, they are quick game. Don't get me wrong. They do have slots. They do play 10 personnel, but
they gave Texas some issues with that last year.
Yeah.
They ended up just running the ball, but they ran the ball because they threatened Texas with that stuff. And then Texas just played like a super light box, and then they just ran it for 3 to 5 yards over and over again. LSU could do that, potentially. I don't remember what their receiver room looks like now, but they have Nussmeier.
But it seems like the good news, as far as our concrete schedule, we can't really name anybody that plays that style. So that's good, at least.
The best teams on the schedule are going to be like Florida, who we just said doesn't run that style, Georgia, who doesn't run that style, Texas A&M, who does not run that style, and who am I missing? Oh, there's one other team.
Who?
Ohio State.
Yeah.
But that's not really their game either.
They're not super quick gamey. They're screens, reverses, and shots. So that's a good part. As far as the potential weakness of this defense, we can't name a lot of people we're going to play that schematically or systematically beats that style of defense, which is nice. In the Big 12, oddly, you would have faced it more.
Next year could be like, remember the year when 2023? Texas mostly rolled every offense and they played because Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat made almost everything that everybody wanted to do a non-starter.
Yeah. And
so everyone was like, even me to some extent, and I warned everybody Washington was big trouble on the last team that we wanted to play. Well, I was on the record saying that a million times, but even I underestimated how bad it was going to go when the team that could actually do that faced off against Texas.
Yeah, but that Penix game was also not only did they expose us, but that was insane. Penix the ball could not hit the ground versus him. It was
I think we made it shockingly easy for him.
We did, but there was even Ryan Watts was perfectly in the right spot to contest that one sideline they got him. There were some throws. Don't get me wrong, Penix earned it. Their scheme earned it. But also, that was one of the best QB performances on top of schematic advantage I've seen. That was a crazy game.
There's a couple, but most of them he was able to throw to spots and let his guys run under it.
Yeah. Yeah. But there was probably 3 or 4 plays where you're just all right, man, okay.
Eventually, after they threw for something like 19 yards per attempt in the first half, Texas switched to cover 2, or their main 2 deep quarters deal.
Yeah.
And then they had no one covering the tight end or whoever lined up in the boundary slot. And so Washington just chewed them up doing that for the rest of the game. And then they changed the coverage in the offseason.
Yep.
But yeah, those teams are tough. I warned everybody about Clemson too, because I was like, Clemson can do. They're not Washington, but they can do some of this too. And everyone was like, "You idiot! You're just fear mongering." And
yeah, but when you have Cade, especially in the two outside receivers that are going to be a year older too, Clemson, man, buy Clemson stock this year, and that pains me because I hate Dabo Swinney's old-minded ways. But I think Clemson's actually going to be a good team this year, especially coming out of the ACC, right?
yeah, especially if they can play. I did overestimate the threat that Clemson's defense posed because they were garbage on defense.
Paul called it well, that they had NFL talent and individual players. If you scouted them and only looked at 1/11th, you would and then say, "Wow, man, they have a lot." But there was a total lack of cohesion with that defense, and it showed. Yeah, but they had talent, but they didn't play together type thing. All the stereotype. All right, Ian, thank you. Chat, thank you as well on this beautiful Wednesday morning. And this was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Later, y'all.